Hello and welcome to the 147th episode of This Is Difficult podcast, the show where we talk about video games and other things, but mostly just video games. I'm your host, Paul. Thank you. We know that Josh does better intros, okay? Like, don't rub it in. Josh's intros are fun and exciting, and I'm not that cool. So, we need Josh, if only just for the intro, but we should just
have him re-record like 200 intros.
No, but unfortunately, Josh isn't with us tonight. He's very, very busy. But we got a special guest tonight. My brother Adam. You guys might know him, GTG Adam, Comics and Coffee. Might know him from the Sentinels of the Multiverse games and so on and so forth. He's a cool guy. And we also got our friend Zach, another letdown, with us tonight.
But he's always here.
He's always here.
I sure am.
But we like that too. We're big fans of Zach. Why can I never get my framing right here? There we go.
Because you're bad at this.
Oh, see. How did this happen? Did my thing get scooted out?
Marvelous. Paul can't set up his own screen.
We're better. I think my green screen got pushed back. That must be it.
This is why mine come from the ceiling and not from the floor.
That's smart. That's smart. You know what? Zach's the brains of this outfit.
Oh, that's high praise.
Well, it's certainly not me.
Yeah.
It's not.
Look around you. Isn't high praise?
But yeah, anyway, we're here to talk about some video games and things. But, it's been a while since we all caught up. We had last week off, if I'm not correct. Right? Last week was Easter, right?
That is correct, yes.
All right, yeah. And Adam hasn't been with us for a while. So, how you guys been? Adam, tell us about what you've been doing, what you've been playing, how life's been.
I've been working my ass off pretty much, as is usual. I started my Final Fantasy playthrough. I want to go through all of them because there's a lot of them I've never done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm playing Final Fantasy 1 right now, and it's fine. It's shockingly poorly balanced. Like the only characters that get any gear are warriors. So you have no upgrades for any other characters for a really long time, and you're like, why is this?
Well, isn't it also, doesn't Final Fantasy 1 have the job system too? Or no? Okay, that's not until 2 or 3.
It prestige classes your characters, so your warrior becomes like a knight. Or
see, I prefer that in RPGs.
That.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. I don't. I don't like that you are stuck with your white mage not doing anything for half the game.
Yeah.
So, and it feels like you have to have a white mage. But. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I'm playing right now. Elden Ring, and then I just bought Horizon Forbidden West and Kirby whatever world, Forgotten World.
Forgotten. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I just bought both of those.
Nice.
So that's what I've been up to.
Cool. Zach, how about yourself, man?
Pretty much just hanging out. I played like a bunch of games,
down the street.
I wish. As the resident long distance guy here, I haven't really had anybody to play with other than you guys online lately, but that hasn't stopped me. I have continued my ridiculous playthrough, my ill-advised playthrough of, this is going to get chroma'd, Pokemon Green version.
It's definitely chroma'd.
It's entirely in Japanese, and I can't read a word of it, but I just cleared Rocket Game Corner.
That's impressive as hell, honestly.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
The game.
So, yeah. We did that, I think, with Yellow on an emulator back in the day.
Yeah, well, so I actually was part of a translation project for Green and Yellow initially, and then they came out with Yellow pretty quickly while we were doing that, and like everyone on the project, and like we had Blue and Red, and everyone was just like, you know what, fuck it. It kind of fell apart, but it was kind of fun, like messing with a hex editor and going through and doing some translation.
It's extremely fun. One thing I do want, I'm very curious about, is to see if I can trade my Pokemon from American Blue version into the Japanese Green. I have no idea what that's going to do.
Do you have 2 Game Boys?
I do. Yeah, I have. Well, as I smack my mic, I have a Game Boy and a Game Boy Pocket, so it should work fine.
Yes.
So yeah, that's been most of my gaming time has been devoted to that, because I can just sit on the couch and ignore the game and watch TV.
I got a question.
Pokemon, yeah, go ahead.
Did you do the Mew trick in green?
Blue version?
Is it doable in green?
It might be, but there is no missing though. So I don't. So the rare candy duplication is not a thing. Not that I could read it if it was. I guess Master Ball I could read, but
yeah, but
I don't know if the MIT glitch is in there or not. And honestly, I've been fighting every trainer as I go.
Yeah,
so just because it's so much quicker to level that way.
Yeah,
I'm basically looking to not speed run this, but just get through it as quickly as possible.
Right.
I don't really. I'm not messing with the PC or as much as I can. I just I've got one Pokemon of every major type. I've got grass, I've got water, I've got electricity, I've got fire, and I'm just okay, this is going to be enough to get me through the game.
Yeah.
It's it's like a sort of almost Nuzlocke.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, it's been really fun. I'm enjoying it. And for birthday recently, as a gift to myself, I decided to work more on my Metroid collection, because I bought Fusion a little while. My mom found my Fusion copy, and then we had Dread. So I actually bought 1, 2, and 3, but I did not just buy Super Metroid for Super Nintendo. I bought the Super Famicom version.
Nice.
Purely because the box art is so much better, or the cartridge art is so much better.
And you can play it in English. I had no idea.
Yes. Yeah, it's
I have that cartridge too. I didn't know you could play it in English. Yeah.
It is entirely in English on the Japanese cartridge. So I plugged it into my Superboy, and while I was in isolation down here a little while ago, my wife had COVID, and basically in order to keep teaching, I had to isolate. Which is fine. It's not difficult to do in this house.
Kind of feels like she should have been the one isolating.
Well, she was.
I'm just
teasing. You guys both know the reason that
I
chose to isolate rather than she did.
Yeah, I'm teasing.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it was fun to just hang out here and poke around at Super Metroid, and I also played a little bit of Metroid 2. Not much, but just I wanted to see the new color palette because I've never seen that before. So that was pretty neat. And then of course I played a bunch of Elden Ring. I finally dropped Godric, which felt really, really good, and it was super smooth. I think when I was done out of my 7 healing vials or whatever, I think I had 5 left.
Yeah, nice. When it clicks. That's
that's what's so satisfying about the Souls games is when you finally kind of crack the code, and you're in the Matrix, and it happens, and you're just oh my god, I did it.
It feels so good. And now there's this whole new area for me to explore, and I spent 3 hours yesterday just finding new sites of grace to hang out at. I discovered that I can proceed with a side quest that I started, and I'm continuing to just open walkthroughs in tabs just to indicate what quests I have unlocked, or what I've made progress on, whether I'm reading them or not.
Screw myself out of the quest because I think that there's one quest to get this one charm that if you do a certain amount of Ronnie's quest, then you can't do it. And
what charm is that?
Yeah,
the magic scorpion charm or talisman or something.
So I have that. Well, you know what? I think there's more than one scorpion talisman.
Yeah, I have 2 of them. There's one that's magic is the name of it, but
okay.
Yeah.
And I do have one more game that I will talk about in a minute, but Paul, why don't you take it away for
Yeah, for sure.
You did this.
So, like I said before our break, I got my hands on a Super NT. So I've just been really going ham on Super Nintendo games. Just kind of going through different ones that I've never played before and things like that. I really, really fell in love with Tales of Fantasia. just the other day.
game's
I'm not
great.
I'm not very far at all in it, but it's incredible. It's gorgeous. It's one of those late cycle RPGs that never made it officially to the West, and it's got all the fancy chips in it, and like it even has it's got voice acting in it. You know,
there's a GBA port.
There is a GBA port. Yeah.
That's how I played it.
And I've not played the GBA version, but yeah, the original SNES version's incredible. It's gorgeous. It's fun. The battle system's so unique for something of that time, especially. Yeah, it's fun. Like comparable to like a side-scrolling version of like your newer like Final Fantasy VII remake kind of thing. Because it's like live action, but still kind of command based, and like it's cool.
It was kind of a trendsetter, I think, in terms of those games, because you think of like what came out shortly after that is like the other Tales games, obviously, but like Grandia.
I love the Grandia games.
The way that the Final Fantasy games ended up going.
Let's see what else. I've also been playing. What's the one that comes before Illusion of Gaia? Soul Blazer, yes. Yeah. Which is also just incredibly fun. It's really simple. The story's not too dense, but like the gameplay loop is just really fun.
It's very satisfying too, that like how you change the world around you as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been playing through that and really loving that. And then I also started my on-stream playthrough of Dragon Ball Z Legend of the Super Saiyan, which is fucking great.
That's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I was having a ball.
I was loving watching you play that.
It's a really cool game.
I'll be honest, Paul, I stopped watching actual Dragon Ball Z and started watching you instead.
Oh, that's
I was
hilarious.
more interested in watching you play this game. And part of it like was the fact that it was it was awkwardly translated from Japanese into French and then French into English.
Yeah, and there was still some French left over in there.
Yeah, I'm sitting there yelling at my computer like, I can read that. Paul, stop moving. Yeah. I can tell you what that means.
Fortunately, I was short enough into my playthrough. Adam was able to find a better translation patch, and I was able to get that, throw that on an SD card, and pop it into my SD to SNES, which is what I've been mostly using for like the import games and stuff. But the ones that I don't have, because I actually do have a pretty decent collection of import games that was gifted to me by a friend of mine that spent a lot of time in Japan.
I don't know if you remember this with that game when we were young and we played that the first time on an emulator. We had gotten a GIF making software also.
Yes.
And so like I would go into the and do like the super attacks and just keep hitting print screen, screenshot over and over and over and over, like try and get every frame of the attack so that I could make an animated GIF of it.
Microsoft GIF animator, man.
Yeah.
I made a whole movie in that software.
That's awesome.
Oh my God.
Like it was a 15-minute short.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah, it was all Mega Man sprites.
So yeah, I'm actually go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying it was a lot of fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought I was cutting you off. So I am going to do a full review on that game, so I don't want to talk about it too much right now. But I will say a couple things. Number one, like I had said in regards to Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, like there's a clear difference in the design philosophy of these games that like really lends itself better to making a fun playable RPG. And another thing though too, while this game has a lot of really innovative things in it, there's also a lot of things that don't hold up very well compared to like how I remember them. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited to review it, but it's a really cool game, and if you can get your hands on a good translation patch for it, it's super worth checking out. Especially if you are like craving a good Dragon Ball Z RPG, which I just really don't think there is any.
No,
other
than the only one.
Yeah.
So, I wish it had continued past Frieza.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
because really, that it ends at Frieza, and like really it's not more than like 20 hours, I want to say.
Yeah, it's a pretty short game.
It's very short as a result of that. They could have made a full RPG out of it.
Yeah.
Well, and like a full 100-hour thing.
Another way that they keep it short is they kind of time gate you. And well, actually it's like reverse time gating, right? Because you're not like stopped from progress, but you're like, if you get to a certain level with your characters in certain areas, it'll push you right into the next story piece.
That's only in the Saiyan Saga though.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah. Once you pass that stops doing that.
Well, there you go. Anyway, that's interesting. So, and then my final bit, I actually got a chance to play some games with my wife, which is awesome because she is, not a huge fan of video games.
What did she play?
So we booted up. Well, she really wanted to play. She saw that there's a Zombieland game, right?
As in like the Jesse Eisenberg movie?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's made after the sequel.
Woody Harrelson movie.
Yeah, the Woody Harrelson movie. Yeah.
Yep. We're trying to come up with Woody Harrelson, and my brain just completely farted, and I was like, all right, well, I know another actor from that movie.
Yeah, so it's a top-down twin stick shooter, and she really wanted to play that, and it was like $7 on the Nintendo Switch, so I picked that up. But while that was downloading, we wanted to play some games, so I booted up both like the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo emulators, on the Switch, whatever the hell they're called, Switch Online. And we played a couple of baseball games, which were fun. The Super Nintendo one is way overcomplicated, Yeah. You have to pick all these different like stats and stupid shit like before you actually play the game, and like it's just really weird. Like and it's not very self-explanatory either. So like if you don't know what you're doing, like which neither of us
feel like
really
that
did.
was sort of the trend of sports games, is like NES and SNES, Sega to a degree. It was very arcadey for the most part. And you would just like swing to hit, you try and run. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Then like once you hit N64, PlayStation, they started making more like sports sims.
Yeah.
And it started getting way intense. And like now, like the sports games that comes out are just like ridiculous unless you're really into sports.
Yeah. So then we jumped into the regular Nintendo one. That one was a little more fun just because there was less complicated BS to like even just start the game. And then after that, game still wasn't done downloading. So we hopped into Kirby, Forgotten World or whatever, the new one, and played a little co-op, which she enjoyed. Like that game's simple enough and easy enough that someone that literally never plays video games can get in there and do the damn thing. So that was really cool. Unfortunately, when we finally did get to play the Zombieland game, she didn't have the best time with it because it's a twin stick shooter. And, she doesn't have an easy time, inputting more than one command at once. So keeping two thumbs on the stick, moving a direction and aiming a direction, and then also pressing a button to shoot her weapon. While that sounds really simple for, people that play video games all the time and grew up with video games, for someone that literally never plays them, that was a lot, So, she kind of lost her patience with that game, unfortunately, but, I was trying to be encouraging and be like, it's just something that you got to get used to. It takes practice. You'll get better, but one of the crappy things is like, we didn't get very far, but there doesn't seem to be very good checkpoints in it. And so we were starting over and having to go through all the stupid dialogue every single time,
Not having skippable dialogue anymore is just a huge mistake.
Well, you could like skip through it kind of like by just pressing the button real fast.
Just like be able to just hold start or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but it was still fun to get in there and play some games. With that all being said, that's pretty much it. I put together a kitchen island today. That was cool.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I did a bunch of
shelves.
Yeah, and I put in a new kitchen faucet recently, and just like random home improvement stuff.
Look at us being homeowners.
Yeah, being adults. That's cool. Anyway, Zach, do you have a review for us?
I do. Surprisingly enough, I thought I was going to be at this for a lot longer, but
cool. Well, let me switch us over, and you can get into it. Boop. Oh, our sound's on. Let me put the sound off. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
take it away.
So,
Zach.
You might be asking yourself, why is Zach reviewing Spider-Man again? Well, if you've been paying attention to the show, you know that I said I was going to do this. A few weeks ago, I did review Marvel Spider-Man for PlayStation 5. It's the remastered version. And we kind of did that. I was going to do this all at once, but we needed a review that week. And Paul was like, no, do this in 2 reviews. So I did. I've separated out the DLC, which is called The City That Never Sleeps, I believe. And the Miles Morales. It's a standalone game, but it's really just an expansion. There's not enough content there to actually call it its own game.
So this got price too, right?
Yeah. I bought them all together. So I don't actually know what the price differential is.
I think they originally released it only like $20 or something like that.
I think it was 30, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a day one drop with the PlayStation 5, which is kind of cool. Point to its credit, excuse me. And oh dear, I forgot to update the notes here. Hang on. Let's make for great air. Okay, so it was developed by Insomniac Games, like I said, for a day one drop on PlayStation 5. That is November the 12th of 2020. It was basically taking some of the characters that were established in the mainline Sony Spider-Man game that you got to play a little bit. You got to run around and do some sneaky stuff as Miles, and throughout the plot of the original game, you do see Miles get bit by the spider and awkwardly call Peter and be like, hey buddy, I got spider powers now. And they did tighten up a lot of the mechanics, things that I didn't expect to be like I found myself wondering, why did they try to fix what's not broken? But also I don't care because it's better. It's a very rare instance of fixing what's not broken and actually succeeding. But narratively, it just kind of falls flat on its face. Chamali is...
it was originally $50. Chamali's wrong too. It was $49.99.
Okay, so yeah, that's $49.99.
That's too much.
That's too much for a glorified expansion, and that was the biggest concern of mine. So this is only available on PlayStation 5, and it just seemed there just seemed like a lot of things that were off, and the expansion or the DLC for the main game actually had some problems unique to itself, and I'll get to that in a minute. What did I like about the game? I mean, it was more Spider-Man. Like there's nothing to hate there. The web swinging is fun. They changed the soundtrack and a lot of the location like specificity to match more of what Miles would be experiencing in his.
Is it in a different borough of New York, or
it's the same map as the original, but it's winter first of all. So they new terrain stuff.
I like that.
But it is mostly centered around Harlem, where Peter's stuff is actually pretty well dispersed across the entirety of New York City.
Okay.
So yeah, it was like it's an enjoyable like mechanical experience, and it still feels like just playing out a comic book. But it feels like they started with like Brian Michael Bendis caliber Spider-Man writing, and then brought in like some C-list writer for the Miles content. And really, I see that as a disservice to Miles. I may not be his biggest fan. I'm a classic Spider-Man fan. I love Peter Parker. I think he's great. But I do appreciate them trying to shake it up every now and again. and everything they introduced for Miles just kind of seemed hand wavy. They gave him a hand-me-down suit from Peter to start with, and I was like, oh, that's hideous. It doesn't fit him right. He honestly looks as silly as the Bombastic Bagman.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was weird. Fortunately, the game comes with the Into the Spider-Verse costume, which I just immediately threw on because it's close.
Yeah, and it changes up the animations too.
They should have just done like an Into the Spider-Verse expansion in and of itself. That would have been rad.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I think using the Spider-Man engine as an Into the Spider-Verse game would have been so cool and so much fun. Excuse me. So while it was fun and I'm glad I did it and I enjoyed it, it just wasn't as good as the original, and neither was the DLC. So like I said, mechanically it was good, but the voice acting was like whatever, forgettable. The character development was ignorable. I didn't actually find myself attached to any of the characters. I got excited when you hear Yuri Lowenthal as Peter in your head, or like in your cell phone earwig or whatever. None of the characters, like even Prowler, who is a character that I really, really like, and like honestly, I 3D printed a Prowler mini, even though I haven't 3D printed Miles, because I like that character. His design was boring. They somehow managed to ruin the Tinkerer. I'm like, that's a rad character. What are you doing?
The Tinkerer.
Yeah.
How do they ruin the Tinkerer?
Well, they made it. Spoiler alert! They made it Miles's best friend.
Oh, okay.
And she's just like, "Oh, hey, I'm the Tinkerer now," and Miles is like having an existential crisis over it. And I'm like, I couldn't care less about this character. What are you doing? None of the big names come into play. Like Rhino shows up a couple of times, and you beat him pretty easily. The Prowler fight is just like you shock him 3 times and he's done. It just seems like they put no thought into making it feel unique and exciting.
It almost sounds like they just like slapped it together really fast just to put something out as a launch title.
I was gonna say that like I feel like they didn't have enough for Spider-Man 2, and they were like, what can we get out by PlayStation launch?
Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sony went to Insomniac and was just like, hey, we want Spider-Man 2 to launch on the PS5. And they're like,
best we can do is
we'll give you this. And so meh. Now, so yeah, it just like everything seemed to fall flat. And in the case of the DLC, it was more Peter Parker content, but there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason behind any of it.
So I played the DLC also, and it definitely felt like we need some content to make some money off of.
Yeah, exactly. The boss fights were way too difficult, like without any reason to be. I can understand if they had more unlockable like abilities or something like that, or some other thing to get you excited about this. I can see ramping the difficulty up and making it harder because you're out to gain those abilities. The only thing that gave you was extra suits, and the only suit I'm using is the one that looks like classic Spider-Man. I don't even like the white one that they packaged the game with. I think that one looks stupid.
Yeah, I hate the PlayStation, the Insomniac suit.
Yeah, it's terrible. So they turn up the difficulty dial to 11. I find myself, RPD said this is like Spider-Man Dark Souls.
I didn't find the bosses as hard as I found like the Silver Sable.
The Silver Sable fight and the Silver Sable minions.
Yeah, the minions.
They were so hard.
Where you have to clear out their base.
It was so annoying.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, that's I think when we coined the term Spider-Man Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Because we just kept banging our heads against the same wall. I finally discovered that if you just keep moving around the rafters until you're and dodging every now and again until your meter is full and just do the web spin, that's the easiest way to take them out.
Web spin,
and then it just got boring. So it just,
but it also felt like there was like one DLC's story stretched over 3.
Three, exactly.
That like it should have been 3 different villains. It should have been 3 different stories, and it was
and that's how comic books are told. Like, I love the idea of like, let's have a Monster of the Week expansion. Give me if I would be totally.
Let me just fight the lizard for this. It doesn't need to be like a whole big thing. Like it's
right. Give me like a little bit of story, and then I beat down lizard in a bank.
I'm fine just fighting Shocker who robbed a bank, and we're good.
Yeah, and that would feel more like a Spider-Man experience, especially as a comic fan, than anything we got in the city that never sleeps.
You fight Hammerhead twice.
Yeah.
You fight regular Hammerhead and then cyber
powered
Hammerhead.
up Hammerhead, and the powered up Hammerhead is 100 times easier.
Yeah, yep.
It was really, really disappointing. That said, like, a disappointing Spider-Man game is still a Spider-Man game.
Best Spider-Man game I ever played was an iPhone game called Rope and Swing, and it's just a side scroller, and you basically, it's just like a one-touch thing, like one touch to shoot your web, one touch to release it, and you try and see how far you can launch yourself. And dude, honestly, it was so addictive and fun. Like, best Spider-Man game I've ever fucking played.
Some people call that Ninja Rope, or was that like a different version?
Maybe it was a different version, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm with Jamali. I think Spider-Man 2, for whatever it came out on, it was a bunch of things, was my favorite Spider-Man game. Although
it was for me until
really
the
liked
PS5.
Shattered. Yeah. Yes. Right. I really liked Shattered Dimensions. I did. I'm like the only one who did.
I haven't played it still. That's on my list.
Really enjoyed it. Neil Patrick Harris voicing Spider-Man was terrific.
Wasn't there a bunch of different?
Yeah, there's 4. There was 4,
and they had what's his name from the show do one of them.
I believe he was
from the '90s show. I think he was Spider-Man Noir.
Was he? Maybe. I don't remember. That game was great. I really liked it. And the sequel was fine too. Like, I didn't have a problem with either of them. But no, Spider-Man PS5 itself was really good. The sequel content was just not strong. The art, and I will say the art style that they chose for Miles Morales was really, really, like, it made sense. They didn't try to push the boundaries in any way. They didn't try to go fully into the Spider-Verse, whatever. But they kind of did a nice balance between what we got in the original game and Into the Spider-Verse. So that was pretty cool. The music was, again, very apropos. There's a lot of hip hop and rap inspiration in this one, which is not something I generally like go out of my way to listen to, but I do have an appreciation for as a musician myself. Like, I appreciate kind of anything musically. So it was cool to see that sort of paint the stage for Miles, where it's much more classic orchestral arrangements for Peter. The sound design was exactly the same. There was nothing different about Miles Morales or the expansion content than we got in the original game. So there's nothing exciting there. How long did it take me? Well, Miles Morales took me 3, 6, 9. Let's call it 10 hours. So it was really short, and the DLC was like 6 hours, maybe. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was very short.
Yeah. So yeah, not very long. Would I play a sequel? Oh, hell yeah. I mean, Adam and I have already talked about this. Like, if and my fingers are crossed, if we get multiplayer in Spider-Man 2, it is like Donkey Kong.
It looks like there's going to be multiplayer in Spider-Man 2. I think it's all but confirmed.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm hoping Venom's playable. Like,
that'd be so cool. I would play it if Venom's playable.
I also hope that, but that means they're going to have to introduce Carnage.
Maybe, but it seems like Kraven the Hunter is the main villain, and it seems like Venom is versus Carnage. I mean, no, Venom is versus Kraven.
That's going to be interesting.
That's what
I'm okay with
kind
that.
of teased. It felt like, but
I do think, like, Adam and I were goofing off and calling dibs on characters. I called dibs on Peter, and Adam goes, "I got dibs on Venom. It's fine." I'm like, "Well, you're gonna have to play Miles until you get Venom, but that's fine." But admittedly, like, the changes that they made, the electricity attacks for Miles are actually incredibly fun. You hit someone with that electrical discharge, and the haptic feedback on the PS5 controller goes bananas. It's so cool. And I mean, you feel it. You feel that energy go through, and that was far and away the best part of that expansion. And I think they're testing new ground that we will see in both Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine.
Nice.
So yeah, I will definitely play a sequel. Very excited about that. So here it comes down to the overall rating and impression. For the original Spider-Man game, I gave it. Let's see if I can find it on the list here. That'd be pretty high. Yeah, I gave it a 9.1. So it was a very high rating. I really, really liked that game. But for this DLC stuff, like, I mean, I'm looking down the list and I just keep going. Like, it was not as good as Battle Network. It wasn't as good as Space Marine. It wasn't as terrible as Mall. It wasn't as terrible as Mall Brawl. I got to put it at like a 6.2.
Dang,
that's rough.
That is rough.
It's just, I mean, it's not good.
Just based on the DLC, I would agree with you though that it's just like we gotta put something out. Like,
so here's a question then. If you bought this game having not played the original and you bought just the Miles Morales content, would your score still be a 6.2? Probably
not, but you'd have to be a pretty big fan of Miles Morales in order to do that.
Interesting, yeah.
But the other thing is, if you're gonna,
I'm guessing it only really gives it like a couple points though. If it's
it does. It doesn't put it above 7. It's like maybe a 6.6, 6.7.
Wow.
Like it's not a full game, and that's the big problem. And the fact that they distributed it with a copy of the original, like, I don't even know I guess you can buy it standalone, but like, why would you? It just doesn't make any sense. The other thing that we noticed, and I had Adam, our friend Cody Arnanoff, in my chat when we noticed it, in the DLC, they didn't enhance the DLC. It's the original PS4 game. They didn't change it.
So there is a next gen update, but like, so it might be that you needed to go and do that, but
maybe. But like, the original face skin is there.
Weird.
And I was like, what? So when you see Peter take off his mask, I'm just like, that doesn't look like he looked in the main game. What gives? And Arn goes, oh, that's the original. That's the PS4 face. I'm like,
wow, he's got PS4 face.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Although we did have a couple of really funny moments. RPD wanted me to call out the moment that we deliberately visited Uncle Ben's grave in Peter's underwears.
Oh, that's disrespectful.
Wow.
Disrespectful.
Wow.
Yeah, there were a couple of good moments just throughout the DLC and throughout Miles Morales, just that had us laughing. But really, like, that was the extent of it. Like, there was a couple of key moments, and
it sounds like it was made by the B team, and like it probably was. Like, or it sounds like it feels like it was made by the B team.
Right. Yeah.
And like, I think that's kind of been an issue with Miles entirely.
Yeah,
except for
Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And I will also say that when Bendis was writing him, his comics were arguably better than Peter's in some ways.
I disagree. I didn't like Bendis's writing for him, and I don't think that he did enough to distinguish Miles from anything. I think that the movie gave him 100% of everything valuable about his character.
That's okay. But I'll give you that.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But they took someone who I thought was basically a saltine cracker in a Spider-Man suit and gave him a personality in the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like the game version of him does enough to distinguish him either.
No, he like I said, the characters surrounding him are completely forgettable. I don't think I could name a single one of them, except for his mother, Rio Morales, because she's in the original game.
Yikes.
But
I remember her and his dad and from the original.
Right. Yeah. And I guess Aaron Davis, the Prowler, but like that's Prowler. Like, I can't remember his guy in the chair's name. I can't remember his best friend's name other than she was the Tinkerer, I guess. I don't remember the main villain's name. That's pretty colossal.
I don't remember the main villain's name.
No, I have no idea. I have zero idea. And granted, you don't actually fight him. He just gets arrested at the end.
What?
Who is he? What's he doing?
Some businessman guy, runs a security company.
That feels bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even have any skin in the game with this, but that feels bad.
And like Shamali asked me the other day, is it worth playing? And I'm like, no.
Dang.
It's just not. Unless you have it. Like, well, I was, I played through all those Batman games, and I played through the first Spider-Man game, and I'm like, well,
thanks for saving me.
Yeah, I guess if you have it and you just want to do more web slinging, yeah,
that's all it is. And the collectibles are just as stupid. You run around, you get the stuff, and you're just like, well, I did that.
We should do an episode on collectibles. We talked about it. We didn't really flush out the ideas, but we should do an episode on collectibles and collectathons, because I think there's a lot to be spoken about there. And that also speaks to a certain type of gamer, which is not me. But yeah, I think that's interesting. Yeah. That's something we could dive into. Speaking of, do you want to wrap this up and we'll get into our topic?
Yeah. I mean, thanks to everybody who tuned in to watch me play those games. That part of it was fun, but boy, if I was just playing this for myself, I don't know that I would have enjoyed it.
Cool.
Well, all right.
That's wild. All right.
A harsh review for the new Spider-Man. More 11.
Okay.
That was a good transition. Cool. So normally I would take over at this point, but Adam being our special guest, and also having kind of just more interest in the topic, to be honest, I think it'd be better to field this. So essentially, in the title we called it our Brawlers, the future of gaming. And I didn't put an S in that, and now I just realized that, and our title looks stupid. So
our Brawler, the future.
A Brawler.
Yeah. Embarrassing, but yeah. So our Brawler's the future of gaming. Dang.
You can update that now, Paul. Like
I know. I'm going to, but we wanted to talk about Brawlers. The idea kind of was brought up because we've seen in the last couple of years a little bit of a uptake in interest in some Brawlers, very specifically the new Ninja Turtle game coming out, and the Streets of Rage 4, which is excellent. Is this a comeback? Or are we going to see more of these? I don't know. Adam, tell us what you think, and if you want to kind of guide us on this topic.
So, I did a little research about Brawlers. I want to understand where they came from, how they evolved from the get-go, right? So what's generally considered the first Brawler is Kung Fu Master for the arcade. It was also Kung Fu on like Atari or on NES.
That's interesting. That's considered a Brawler?
That is considered the first Brawler.
That's interesting. I did love
that was an effort to make a video game version of Game of Death, which is Bruce Lee's last film that was unfinished.
Oh.
So that was like the idea to do that. The next big milestone was Double Dragon. Even the Kunio-kun games didn't make as much of an impact. Double Dragon did, so
arguably much better games, if you ask me.
Much better games, I think. But like Double Dragon, the impact that had in the West basically kickstarted the entire genre from there. And that the Kunio-kun ones and Double Dragon are kind of what added the up and down movement with the side to side. It was just side to side before that with Kung Fu. So then like you see a lot of RPG elements added, like with River City Ransom incorporating money, and you see some of that come through later on. Things like Golden Axe adding magic systems, things like Knights of the Round doing RPG elements to it, and like the genre doesn't really go much further than that for a really long time. I would say Scott Pilgrim was like kind of the resurgence of the marker of the resurgence of the genre. Like it was basically dead before that. You saw a few of them in 3D. You saw Ninja Turtles. You saw Batman: Rise of Sun Tzu, but they were basically just budget versions of the regular 2D brawlers. Then they didn't feel good and they didn't play well, so it seemed like they got the genre just got abandoned. Then Scott Pilgrim came and used essentially all of the best elements of prior games, the different attacks, leveling up, buying stuff, world maps. Like there's a lot of good aspects, but I don't really think it did anything to evolve the genre at all.
I think
it did enable you to tell a very specific story that had already been you'd already seen in one medium, and it was the correct choice for a game in that genre to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a good game. I don't think that it does anything to further the genre though.
Exactly.
I kind of personally feel that the genre has been stagnant for a really long time.
Yeah.
Even though
there was kind of a genre split also, and Muso games came out of Brawlers as a result also. Things just like kind of got bigger and bigger, and then
I've mentioned that. So
Muso games are completely different now.
Very briefly during like the like the GameCube era, there was a few games that were like Brawler style that were released in like a 3D manner. Like there was a Ninja Turtles one, I remember, and it wasn't very good. And I don't think that was 3D's fault, but I think that companies made a conscious effort to avoid doing that again. With the exception of like the Muso games. And that's why they kind of became their own genre. Muso games being like your Hyrule Warriors or your Dynasty Warriors or Samurai Warriors games. The genre is called Muso. But yeah, in Western audiences, you would know them as like the Warriors titles, right? Which is just like a free roaming, like kill everything kind of jammy. But less focus on going from like scene to scene like your traditional brawlers do, and more just like having one big battle. The originals, the Dynasty Warriors games and the Samurai Warriors games being based on like historical wars and battles.
Right.
And they emphasize a little more of like a tactical element than just like going through a level and fighting a boss and then moving on to the next screen. But
we had Fable Heroes in 2012. A mini game within Saints Row 4 entitled Saints of Rage. Then Dragon's Crown in 2013. Dragon's Crown, I think, does a little bit for it.
There's a Sega Saturn game that's exceptional too. I forget what it's called. I can look that up while you finish that thought.
But then there's basically nothing came out between 2013 and Streets of Rage 4, which was, I think, 2017. I think. No, 2020. It was that recent. Yeah, 2020. And Battletoads came out in 2020 also. River City Girls was 2019. So there was like a 7-year gap there. And it seems like you just kind of get these in little bursts. Like you got Castle Crashers around the same time as Double Dragon Neon, Scott Pilgrim. Those all came out. They come out in a little cluster, but like I don't.
Guardian Heroes. That's the Sega Saturn one.
So, Castle Crashers, I say, might feels like a variation on a theme in that it has kind of a character collection aspect to it. But it also doesn't really do a whole lot new.
Right.
Beyond that, it's funny and it's fun, and that's about it. And then River City Girls is a return to form for the Kunio-kun games.
Mm-hmm.
But all that having said, like they come up in little pops and then don't evolve past this. So my question to you guys that I pose from there is, what do you think this genre needs to make it relevant again? Like how much can they get away with just putting out games like the new Turtles, which looks pretty simple?
Mm-hmm.
Can they get away with just doing that ad nauseum forever, or does there need to be some sort of growth in this genre?
I definitely think there needs to be growth in the genre. We talk about the new Ninja Turtles game and the Streets of Rage 4, and Streets of Rage 4 is excellent. It's an excellent example of an old school beat 'em up brawler. But
and I'm sure Turtles will be also.
Yeah. But really both of those are plays on nostalgia, like big time, because I know in my youth those were my favorite beat 'em up brawlers, like specifically those games. Now putting on like a new coat of paint with like the like really cool, really well designed and animated sprites, and having a lot of unlockable characters, that's super fun. But is it changing the genre in any way, or is it making it more modern? Is it bringing it forward?
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I think that adding I think using RPG elements, using it as a kind of interface for an ARPG is a start.
Mm-hmm.
That Dragon's Crown kind of did that a little bit, that like you could revisit the same areas if you needed to level up, if you had your spell attacks, you had your mana, whatever. You had gear systems in it, but you also have to balance. You don't want this type of game to get too complicated either.
Right. That's absolutely vital for this kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
That's defining.
It needs to be pick up and play, but it also like what's required of it to grow.
Right. I think the source material hasn't changed, and that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
As you defined at the beginning of your lecture, Adam, the source material was those classic like Bruce Lee movies.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of those beat 'em up games in one form or another in arcades.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking Street Fighter, I'm talking Mortal Kombat. Yes, even the original Turtles game, the original X-Men games, that we all love, but those sorts of things don't, like, they've stagnated too. Mm-hmm. We're just playing those old games. So there's no new material to base it on. And I'm racking my brain, like, what are you going to do, a brawler based on Fast and Furious? Like,
maybe. I mean, that actually isn't a horrible idea. Like,
it's not a terrible idea, but like, you need to find new inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
They need to find new inspiration in order to push this genre forward.
So do you think that the stagnation of Hollywood is directly contributing to the stagnation of the video game industry as a result?
I think that,
like,
I think it's got something to do with it, because I mean, what was the last big original property we saw out of Hollywood? Crickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're not coming out with new ideas. They're rebooting and remastering things, and that's killing it. That's aggressively taking away from the ability of the games industry to come up with new ideas. Because
I guess technically Dune is like new in the same way that Lord of the Rings was new when that came out.
Right. But you can't do a Dune brawler. Like that doesn't make any sense.
So here's something. Like source material is fine. I think you could make a brawler out of anything action based, right?
Sure.
John Wick. Yeah, that'd make a great brawler.
Supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
You could do. Honestly, like
that would be fantastic. Actually, I'd play the shit out of Supernatural. I don't even really like that show, but I would play that brawler.
I'm going to expand that and say Berlanti-verse. Any Greg Berlanti show, you could make a brawler out of. Riverdale, like I could play that.
I would play an Archie brawler, like
an Archie brawler would be cool.
Style like the old comics, and just like kind of a little tongue in cheek. That
and like fun. DLC, like Archie meets Kiss.
Here's the thing, though, guys. Like this doesn't change what the game is, though. You're just slapping new skins, a new coat of paint on the game. What could you do to make the genre itself feel fresh? I've got a couple ideas. Number one, and I don't think this is a fix all thing, but don't be afraid to try 3D again. 3D's come a long way, and I think that you could do things that you couldn't back when this was originally tried and failed. That might make it more interesting. I also think adding in new mechanics, right? So like instead of a boss fight just being about going in and trying to do as much damage to a boss while avoiding their attacks, and getting them, to the point where we used to call it blushing, but when the character model's flashing and whatever, that's kind of boring, right? Let's mix it up. Let's make actual mechanics in the boss fight that make that fight more interesting. What else? Some games do a little bit of this. In fact, Chamali mentioned, some character customization, and in the expansion for the Streets of Rage 4, adding more customizable skills, right? So putting, instead of just having your punch and kick and special that takes damage from you, put in more unique button combinations and skills that make that fight more interesting.
So how far do you think you can push that? Like, can you have full on Street Fighter commands without screwing everything up? My instinct is yes.
Part of a brawler, you don't want to memorize those button combinations.
Well, I mean, even if
you can make some real simple.
Yeah, even if it's just like a Hadoken move,
right?
That's most people can handle that.
Think about this though, guys. Our controllers are way more intricate than they used to be, right?
That's true too.
You don't even necessarily need to do a bunch of different like command prompts, key combinations. Before we had 2 buttons on these arcade sticks, we now have, triggers. We've got 4 face buttons, you've got clickable sticks. So you could implement more techniques without having to make really complicated combinations.
I kind of actually think of the the X-Men Legends, Marvel Ultimate Alliance games as kind of a polyp on the side of this genre. They're more like co-op ARPGs.
Yeah, kind of like dungeon crawler, almost Diablo-like.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's maybe kind of where the genre needs to go. And actually the standard control scheme for that is, I think, hold down left bumper and then your face buttons do your special attacks. You have 4 different special attacks. And I think that's something that brawlers could straight up steal and
absolutely
be more the better for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're saying is, if we take the idea of a brawler and move it more toward an ARPG scheme, that creates a whole new, basically breathes new life into the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Just embracing new technology.
Yeah, I think you need to have more than a 1 hour game and
right.
I think you need some sense of progression for sure.
Yeah.
Some sense of customization, be that visual or otherwise, but
Definitely.
So it's definitely
I think those are all good thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So when do we start?
There you go. Let's do it.
When all of us have free time. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't.
We have the characters for it, Adam.
Dude, how rad would a Sentinels brawler be?
I would be rad.
That would be rad.
I know. I've tried to make it happen.
Nice.
I tried.
Well,
it keeps bugging me to finish Sentinels of Freedom. I'm like, duh.
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna do it myself. I'll see you guys later.
All right. Well, do you guys have any final thoughts or any closing statements you want to make about Brawlers or the future of Brawlers or the evolution of Brawlers, or, you know, if Brawlers are actually making a comeback or if it's just a play on our nostalgia, which I'm not mad at nostalgia plays.
No, I'm not upset about that. I think right now that's where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
But could it make a comeback? Could it evolve and become something that we look for again? Yes, I very much think so. Someone just needs to say, go up to a big name production company.
Someone needs to throw their hat over the wall.
Yep. And in the words of Randall Graves, someone just needs to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And make it happen. And
Salsa Shark.
So
say
bigger boat.
Listen up, motherfuckers. We're going to the fucking moon.
Flying car.
All right. A bunch of people aren't going to get these references, but I do.
They are not, but that's you have to have the 10th anniversary Clerks DVD and watch the side features to know what the fuck we're talking about.
All right. Well, let's end it there. I think that was a nice little discussion, nice little piece, and we're right about at an hour, a little over, so it was good. Adam, thanks again for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Just a heads up, guys, we may be changing the scheduled time of the podcast. It is kind of nebulous right now. We're unsure, but we're trying to work it out. We want to kind of make sure that, you know, we have availability for Josh to make it in here, and with his new job, it's making it difficult. So, this is difficult, but yeah, you know, so we'll see, and we'll keep everyone updated in the Discord. Speaking of which, don't forget to join the Discord. We have a lot of fun conversations in there, and we play video games with each other. It's pretty cool. If you're watching us live currently, you're on my channel, which, I stream video games on Tuesdays and sometimes on Thursdays. And then on Saturdays, we always play a samurai game because it's Samurai Saturday. Right now, during the week, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm doing a Dragon Ball Z Legend of the Super Saiyan playthrough, which is really fun. I'm going to try and probably do some more Super Nintendo games, you know, just because I'm really digging it right now, too. But yeah, if you're watching us on YouTube, like, share, comment, all that stuff. Sharing's the most important for us, but, you know, subscribe to all that stuff. And that's about all I got. If you want to yell at me on Twitter, you can. It's at Ryugami-sama. And that's it. Adam, where can we find you, bud?
I'm on Twitch at Comics and Coffee. I have not streamed in probably 6 months, but I'm going to get that going here soon. And I'm on Twitter at GTGAdam, and you can yell at me also.
He'll probably yell back.
I'll probably yell back. I'm kind of an asshole.
And I'm on Twitch at Another Letdown. I'm live Wednesdays and Saturdays reliably, and every other Friday. This Wednesday, we've got Zach and Alex Gear Up. We're working on finishing up Gears Tactics and moving on into Outriders. Very excited about that. Friday, we've got Tabletop Simulator cooperative board games featuring the Arkham Horror Files games. I think we're doing Arkham 2nd Edition this week. I'm not sure. It'll either be that or Mansions of Madness. And then Saturdays, Adam and I paint minis on my channel, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Paul has something to say.
Before we go, and I should have brought this up earlier, but it literally just popped into my head. Sifu. Has anyone played the new game Sifu?
Yeah, I haven't played it, but it looks dope.
It looks dope, and if you ask me, that's a big step in the right direction for the future of Brawlers. Now, can they make that
multiplayer?
Multiplayer is something that they need to work into that, but I think there's something there for sure, and that game has been pretty successful. So we'll see if anyone picks up on that.
Anywho, yeah. So Adam and Broody and I were all too tired to stream last night. But I believe this week, Beast from the X-Men.
Excellent.
Nice. With all his removable parts.
Nice.
Cool.
Magnets. How do they even work? So yeah.
Maybe
and I'm on Twitter too. You can yell at me, but I pretty much just ignore it. It's DENONC.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. Have an excellent evening. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.